All right. So, how can you integrate nicotine use into your day to help make you more productive and everything else? So, nicotine has two main effects that we're going to talk about that are useful. So, one is the focusing effect and sort of energy and motivational effect. And this is probably due to dopamine, among other signaling that it creates. Which is useful for the morning in particular, and then the appetite suppressing capabilities as well, which could be a positive or a negative depending on what you're doing. So, for most people, we're trying to eat a little bit less, and so we'll just leave that as it is and assume that that's a good thing. So, in the morning, how do you use this? You really have two prime answers to this. I would say immediately upon waking, once you sort of get your day started, and or well, probably or would be the better response after eating breakfast. That those are pretty ideal times, and this is to help you become more wakeful. This is to help keep you more compliant on a diet and help keep you in a state where you're going to be more focused. You're going to have that morning dopamine signaling, which we want to balance cortisol, because most of us run kind of cortisol heavy in the morning in modern life. So we're generally trying to compensate for that. Now, you shouldn't only compensate for that with nicotine. I'm not saying to do that. There's other things that we can add to an ideal morning routine. But what I am saying is that this can be a legitimate part of your morning routine. And I would actually recommend doing it above caffeine, because caffeine can keep basically suppresses the dismantling of some of the hormones that are present during sleep that make you groggy. And that's why you can have a crash. And so in general, you shouldn't have nicotine until you've been awake for about 2 hours. And that actually works really, really well, because if you have nicotine first thing in the morning, then you're going to be, it's going to be mostly worn off 2 or 3 hours later. And so then it could be time to use caffeine, which could give you sort of a nice pick me up until you're at lunch. And then after lunch, I would say it could be useful to have nicotine again. However, if you're trying to keep yourself compliant on a diet and suppress a little bit of appetite, it could be useful to have that nicotine hit shortly before lunchtime. That will also probably help carry you through the most of the afternoon into the evening to be a little bit more compliant on eating less. It does genuinely suppress appetite in most people, and so this can be very useful for many of us. And to make sure that you're not hooked on it or you don't develop a chemical addiction, what I would say is try to make sure you go 1 day a week without using any nicotine. That seems to be a good number. I've done that for myself. I don't really miss it on those days, except that it's kind of, it's like a habit, so it is habit forming. But if part of that habit is you don't have it on Saturdays or Fridays or whatever that day is, or Sundays, then it's no big deal. You just sort of like don't have it that day. I've never noticed withdrawal symptoms or anything like that when I skip or miss a day. And this is a good way to sort of ensure that you're not becoming hooked on anything like that. A lot of people have caffeine addictions and things like that. I'd recommend abstaining again 1 day a week, and that sort of keeps those concerns at bay, while also giving you the focusing benefits and other things like that. A lot of us, when we get up in the morning, this is particularly true of women, get more cortisol than we really need because we start the day too early. And so part of your morning routine should be not working, not jumping into everything. You should have a quiet morning routine. I'm going to do a separate video on this, but an aspect of this is enhancing dopamine signaling. And some of that dopamine signaling enhancement we can get actually from nicotine itself, while also participating in other dopamine driving activities that can set you up for a more productive day, help you with perhaps some hormone things, insulin sensitivity, and other things like that, and help protect your circadian rhythm in a manner that's productive, safe, and just not harmful to you. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. Thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you later.